exist isn't reasonable suspicion. It's just racism wearing a badge.